Has this surprised you, how much the viewership has gravitated towards this woman? Like, people from all over the world are talking about her.
Mayoral candidate will be on the general election ballot despite an attempt to block her candidacy by an ally of current Mayor Tiffany.
Who is okay? Prepare yourself for this story, which has drama, betrayal, judicial battles, and even an arrest. It makes politics seem less like a government affair and more like the next big psyop opera. We're going to delve into the insanity surrounding Dolton, Illinois Mayor Tiffany Henyard, whose reign has been nothing short of a reality. Yes, you heard that right, an actual arrest. This story has it all. And then there's an AAL candidate. If you thought small-town politics were dull, think again.
The saga surrounding embattled South suburban politician Tiffany Henyard.
Here is the scene. Imagine a local government meeting, which is usually a routine affair when documents are signed, budgets are examined, and perhaps there is some argument about expenditures. But this time, oh no, the meeting descended into turmoil that nobody could have predicted. Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who is renowned for her contentious leadership and exaggerated personality, barged into the trustees' meeting. Even though she wasn't supposed to be there, she gathered like a character in the final act of a drama. When has that ever stopped her? The meeting, which took place at a local park district building, was already tense, with residents crammed into the room to watch the latest chapter and what had devolved into a political circus before Henyard.
Mayor Tiffany Henyard was not at the hearing here today, neither was her attorney, and she was not made available for a comment.
Henyard has made headlines for all the wrong reasons, and this wasn't simply a random outburst. The stress that up to this explosive moment had been building for months and years. Check for financial scandals, federal inquiries, as if that weren't enough. She has also been accused of disobeying court orders, making rogue appointments, and arguing with almost everyone in her vicinity. In other words, Henyard has been leading DOL in her own way, which has angered many trustees, residents, and even the courts. Double-check the claims of poor management and targeting political opponents. You better believe that's on the list too. Returning to the meeting, the trustees decided to move it to the Park District building due to the increasing number of attendees who were there for the drama and not merely to witness democracy in action. Henyard never lets them down. Witnesses described the atmosphere as electric, with tension so thick you could practically cut it with a knife when the mayor decided to hold her own meeting at Village Hall despite not having enough trustees present to proceed legally. When that plan fell through, she got into her car, drove to the Park District building, and walked straight into the trustees' meeting. Residents turned away in protest as Henyard made a silent but impactful gesture of their disapproval, and then the fireworks started. Henyard went up to the microphone and declared, "I am the mayor of the village of Dolton," as if to remind everyone who was in charge, but almost instantly the room erupted in shouts and alcohol, and the crowd, obviously fed up with her antics, drowned out her voice. It was chaos, and although Henyard is used to conflict, this time the backlash was so great that she was forced to leave after just 7 minutes, effectively being jeered out of her own meeting.
It's the right way.
This is the proper approach to break the law. Even the most experienced political analysts were astonished by what transpired next. Reports started to circulate that Henyard, clearly incensed at her public humiliation, apparently got physical with one of the officials in attendance. In a twist that felt more like a television show ending than a real-life incident, ES escalated to the point where the police who had been positioned nearby in case of trouble had to step in. Yes, the current mayor of Dixon, Illinois, Tiffany Henyard, was arrested during the meeting. The residents watched in shock as she was led away, leaving a room full of stunned witnesses and more questions than answers. However, it should be remembered that this arrest was the result of months of legal battles and growing tension between Henyard and the trustees, with the main source of the conflict being her insistence on appointing important people, such as a new police chief, without the board's approval. Her defiance resulted in a court order prohibiting her from making such decisions. Henyard leadership has always been more my way or the highway, and this was no different. Did she listen to me unilaterally? Of course not. Her persistent disobedience of the restraining order simply served to fuel the flames, laying the groundwork for the explosive events that transpired during the meeting with Jordan. Then there is the financial aspect of things. The Henyard administration has been beset by accusations of misusing public funds, from extravagant taxpayer-funded trips to dubious spending on events. Her financial choices have raised more than a few eyebrows. It's about democracy and hypocrisy, and I truly believe it to be extremely hypocritical. The village's general fund had a negative balance of millions of dollars, which was one particularly startling revelation. It's a financial mess that has left residents wondering where their tax dollars are going and why their mayor seems more focused on consolidating power than addressing the town's mountain crisis. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot even conducted a limited investigation into Dolan's finances and found $40,000 spent on Amazon purchases in just one day that were not accounted for. Not to mention that the FBI subpoenas the Henyard Political Committee and even her now-defunct burger business have all been named in the ongoing federal probe. In February, voters will cast their ballots for the primary election before the general mayoral election, but the financial scandals don't end there. Henyard's tenure has also been characterized by lavish expenditures on events that appeared to be more about her personal branding than helping the community. For example, a poorly attended concert that reportedly cost over $85,000 money could have been used to address public safety issues or the city's deteriorating infrastructure. In addition to the ongoing fallout from a series of extravagant trips funded by taxpayer dollars, reports have surfaced detailing stays in upscale hotels, expensive meals, and travel expenses that dwarf what most small-town mayors would ever consider appropriate. High's office has defended these trips as necessary for economic development and regional partnerships, but critics have pointed out that while Henyard appears eager to fund flashy spectacles, basic services in the village have been neglected, leaving residents frustrated. No tangible advantages have been offered to support the expenses. Residents have been vocal in their disapproval, with some calling for an independent audit to determine just how much of their money has been spent and whether any of it was misused. We leave some action somebody that's actually going to do their job. How about that somebody that's come and work for the people, not themselves, and have pictures all over the place? And then there's the issue of Henyard's so-called cancer charity, which has raised even more eyebrows. Established under her name, the charity was shut down after failing to report how it spent its funds, leaving many to question its legitimacy. While Henyard has claimed the organization was created to help those in need, critics argue that the lack of transparency suggests otherwise. Combined with the federal probes into her office and her personal financial dealings, the charity scandal has further eroded trust in her leadership. For many in Dotan, it's not just about one misstep, it's a pattern of behavior that raises serious questions about accountability. But Henyard isn't just facing criticism from the courts and the trustees. Many residents have had enough as well. One longtime Dolton resident summed it up perfectly: the real business isn't being done because of all this nonsense. We need someone who's actually going to work for the people, not themselves. Another resident, visibly frustrated by the ongoing drama, added, "This city will be so glad when she is out of office in politics." Totally, it's a sentiment that seems to be shared by many in the community who are desperate for a leader who prioritizes governance over theatrics. Think they take this serious? I think it's a big game to them, and they don't understand that the more confusion and the more back and forth that we do, no one suffers but the people of the village. Of course, not everyone is rooting against Henyard. She still has her supporters who see her as a fighter standing up against entrenched interests. In one social media post, she called on her followers to stand with her, framing herself as a champion of the people, but even some of her allies are beginning to question her leadership. One fan commented, "It would have been wonderful to see Tiffany in handcuffs and placed in custody. Hopefully we will see the feds come get her." It's a stark reminder that while Henyard may still have some backing, the tide is clearly turning against her. Just a little bit of Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed super mayor of Dolton, finds herself at the center of yet another controversy. With federal investigations underway, growing public dissent, and a recent arrest that has dominated headlines, her political future seems more uncertain than ever. The question on everyone's mind is simple: can Henyard turn things around, or is this the beginning of the end for her tenure? Henyard's rise to power was marked by bold promises and a pledge to transform Dolton into a beacon of progress. However, her time in office has been overshadowed by allegations of corruption, questionable decisions, and a mounting list of controversies. Residents are now grappling with the fallout of her leadership, as her once promising vision appears increasingly clouded by scandal. Her arrest is the latest in a series of incidents that have called her integrity and leadership into question. While the details of the federal investigations remain unclear, the very presence of such scrutiny has added to the growing unease among Dolton residents. Public dissatisfaction has reached a boiling point, with protests and calls for accountability becoming a regular feature of the town's political landscape. Adding to Henyard's challenges is the upcoming election. Dolton voters are set to head to the polls next year, and the race is already heating up. With challengers like Trustee Jason House, Cassandra Hops, and Jordan making significant waves, Henyard's re-election bid faces an uphill battle. These candidates, each presenting themselves as a fresh alternative to Henyard's embattled administration, are capitalizing on the growing demand for change. One of the key issues Henyard must address is the mounting public dissent. Her critics argue that her administration has prioritized personal interests over the needs of the community. The federal investigations have only amplified these concerns, painting a picture of an administration mired in controversy. Supporters of her challengers point to the need for transparency, accountability, and a renewed focus on Dolton's development. Despite the challenges, Henyard remains defiant. Known for her charisma and determination, she has vowed to weather the storm and prove her critics wrong. Her supporters argue that she has been unfairly targeted by political opponents and that her accomplishments during her tenure, though overshadowed by scandal, deserve recognition. Whether this narrative will resonate with voters remains to be seen. The stakes for Dolton couldn't be higher. The town's political future hangs in the balance, and residents are keenly aware of the implications of their decision. Will they choose to give Henyard a second chance, or will they opt for new leadership to guide Dolton out of its current turmoil? As the drama unfolds, one thing is clear: this story is far from over. The road ahead for Henyard and Dolton is anything but smooth, and the outcome of this political saga will undoubtedly have a lasting impact on the community. What do you think? Can Tiffany Henyard bounce back from these challenges, or is it time for Dolton to move on? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates on this unfolding political drama.